Hello guys, welcome back to the show. So in this tutorial, we're going to learn about Flask. Now Flask is a micro framework for building web applications in Python. I know I've done a lot of tutorials on Flask on this channel, but I realized that I haven't done an introduction series which will take a user from not knowing anything to Flask. So I thought, why not make a Flask tutorial and then help people understand how Flask works and how they can use Flask to build the awesome application that they want to build. Now, unlike Django, with Flask, you have the freedom to build your application the way that you want. So you can build your own login system, your own logout system, any way, in any format that you want. So it gives you the freedom to build the application the way that you want without any restrictions. To get started with Flask, what I'm going to do is to show you guys how to set up. So what I'm going to do now is to go into my terminal and then create a virtual environment and install the packages that I need to use the Flask micro framework. Now, inside of this terminal, what I'm going to do is to create a virtual environment. For anyone out there who doesn't know what a virtual environment is, a virtual environment is like creating a world, and inside of that world, you will install all the dependencies that you need for the application that you want to build. Okay, so that you don't pollute the dependencies on your local machine. So what I'm going to do now is to create a virtual environment, and in that environment, in that world, I will install the Flask dependency that I need. So in here, what I'm going to say is that virtualenv -p Python 3 venv. So I'm creating a virtual environment which is called venv. Now that this is done, what I'm going to do is to activate this virtual environment. And how you activate a virtual environment is by saying source venv, which is the name of the virtual environment, bin, and then activate. Now that the virtual environment has been activated, as you can see, I have the venv inside of a bracket. What I'm going to do is to install the Flask package. So if you go onto the Flask documentation, which you can find the link in the video description, if you click on installation, if you scroll down, you will see install Flask, and then copy this, go into your terminal, and then paste that in here after you've activated the virtual environment. So now that I have Flask installed, if I do pip list, as you can see, I've got Flask installed right here. So now that I have Flask installed, what I'm going to do is to open this in Visual Studio Code. Now that I have VS Code open, instead of the root of the application, I'm going to create an app.py file. So I'll say touch app.py. So now that I have created the app.py file, what I need to do is to create an instance of Flask. If I go to the Flask documentation, it says that the first thing I should do is to import Flask from Flask. So I'll say from Flask import Flask. So I'll come over here and say from Flask import Flask. I'm importing Flask from the Flask package. Now that Flask has been imported, what I need to do is to create an instance of Flask. So they created a variable called app and assigned to that app the instance of Flask, passing it the __ name, which is the name of the file. Okay, so I'll come over here and I'll say app, and I'll say Flask, and I'll pass it __ name _ like so. So again, what I did was to create an instance of the Flask app and then pass it to a variable that I've called app, or I've named app. Now, if we come back to the Flask documentation, as you can see, they've created a function called hello world, which returns hello world. Okay, so they've created a function. So let's go into our application and create a function as well. So I'll go into the application and I'll define hello world. And what this function will do is to return hello world, like so. So this is a simple function that returns hello world. Now, if we come back to the documentation, let's talk about this app.root. This app is a decorator. If you watch my last tutorial, I talked about decorators in Python, but we don't have to know what decorators do in order to use the app.root function. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to just copy what they've written over here, come over here and paste that over here. So I'm saying that app, which is the instance of the Flask app that I've created, which is stored in the variable app. I'm saying that the app.root, if I pass it the /URL, what I want you to do is to return hello world. So now we've got something in the app.py. Now we need to run the app.py. To run the app.py, what we can do is to say that if underscore underscore name underscore is equal to underscore underscore main underscore underscore app dot run, and then we will set debug to true. So what is this underscore underscore name and what is this underscore underscore name? What I'm saying is that if this file, okay, if the app.file is executed directly, what I want you to do is to run the app, okay? So if I execute this Python module app.py, if I execute it directly, what I want you to do is to run the app. So run the Flask server, okay? So now I can go into my terminal. Now, instead of the terminal, to run the Flask application, what I need to do is to say Python app.py. When I run Python app.py, I've executed the app.py directly. So what it does is that it calls the app.run function, and then everything over here gets run, okay? So as you can see, it says that the environment is set to production, debug mode is on. So when debug mode is on, you can actually see the errors. If you push to production, you need to set this debug mode to false, and it says that it is running on this endpoint. So I can actually go to this endpoint. So if I come over here and then put this in here, it says hello world. Now, rather than returning just hello world, which is a string, as we have over here, we can actually return proper HTML. So instead of saying hello world, what I can say is that say h1, and I can close this h1 tag, save it. And if I go back to the browser and I refresh, as you can see, we've got hello world in an h1 tag. And if I inspect this, it is in a h1 tag. The next thing we're going to look at is how to change the environment from production to development, as you saw when we ran the Flask app. I'll go into the terminal, turn off the server, and you turn off the server by saying Control and C. Control and C will turn off the server. And where I've created the app.py, what I'm going to do is to export the Flask env and then set that to development. So I say export Flask underscore env, and I'll set that to development. Now, if I run the application, so Python app.py, the environment is now development. So that's all you need to know to build your first Flask app. In the next tutorial, what we're going to look at is how to pass variables into the URL and then dynamically change what we see in our view page. Thank you guys for watching it, and I'll see you next time.